I am far more happy keeping my ego than trying to constantly rid myself of it. So here's me, sophomore year of college. I'm having the time of my life, not worrying about anything, just drinking and partying with my friends, honestly just caring about pretty superficial things. My ego was in full blast, heavily enjoying the amount of green and alcohol that I was putting into my body. My weekend nights consisted of taking the train to my friend's dorm, getting wasted, and hopping from party to party. And then around wintertime of this same year, something that I deemed to be completely meaningless changed the course of my life forever. I've always been a very avid user of YouTube, even before I started making videos, and sometimes the right video catches my eye and I decide to click on it. Actually, this happens really often every single day, and I spend hours on this platform. And a video that looked pretty interesting to me popped up on my recommended feed. It was called How to Get a Tranquil Mind, No Negative Thoughts. I was not into any sort of personal development or spirituality at this time, given the things that I was doing during this time, but I clicked on this video and I was completely taken back by the way that Ralph Smart, who is the YouTuber, carried himself and talked about this topic. That video alone was the door to my spiritual journey. I started watching all of this dude's videos, at least one every morning. I took in as much information as I could consume on the subject of spirituality. I listened to Kid Cudi's Passion, Pain, and Demon Slaying on repeat during this time, and I even bought a turtle crystal pendant necklace that I always wore, and I don't know where that ever went, but I wish I still had that. And as I started to consume more of the spirituality content, it blew my mind what these sources were telling me. My ego, what I call myself, doesn't actually exist. It's just a made-up thing that we as a society all decided to agree on to try and explain what the hell is going on this earth. But it made so much sense to me. How I defined me, Cole Hastings, was such an incomplete and inaccurate representation of the real me. My definition of my ego relied on things outside of me to exist, but where do you set the boundaries between what is you and what is outside of you? We say we are everything in this skin, everything we have voluntary control over, but there's things inside of our skin and our mind that we can't even control, just like how there's things outside of us that we can't control. The definition of I, this ego, is really just something that we humans made up, and yet I still don't want to lose it. Because when I think of all the success that I've had in my life so far and what's helped me grow as a person, my ego has had a lot to do with that. So a lot of what's taught in these spiritual practices is to completely dissolve the ego, but I feel like that comes with a battle between you actually caring for this ego or not. The problem is that people take these teachings too seriously in modern society and they end up ruining their ego in the process, and that, I believe, is not the optimal way to exist. So instead, I propose a different solution to the problem of the ego. I don't think we should lose our ego completely, but instead cultivate it. So what exactly do I mean by this? It's basically just a fancy way of saying there needs to be a good balance between what you consume from these spiritual practices and then actually using your ego for the good of yourself and others. Because especially if you live in Western culture, you gotta use a little bit of your ego sometimes, and there's no shame in that at all. It's a very useful thing. It's just not getting too inflated of an ego. So I want to present to you some scenarios in which you should use your ego and when you shouldn't. It depends completely on the context. And keep in mind that this might be different for everybody. This is just how I use my ego and don't use my ego. What you have to do to live an optimal life might be different. Let's talk business, money, material things. Ego is an important thing to have to achieve these things, if you want to achieve them, of course. My ego, Cole Hastings, has brought me a whole lot of joy in the way that I identify myself on the internet. Listen, I understand that money and fame and all these material things are not the solution to life's problems, but I want to be wealthy and I like being successful in these material ways. I know it's not going to lead me to all of life's happiness, but it certainly has solved a lot of my problems. And if you go on living a completely egoless life, I doubt that most of you will want to pursue any sort of real wealth and success in life, because you'll be so stuck up upon, oh, this isn't even me. There's nothing here. I don't need to use this in any beneficial way towards getting material items. Can you imagine if every phone call for a potential client, I picked up the phone and they asked me, is this Cole Hastings? And I said, no, There is no Cole Hastings. Cole Hastings does not exist. Like, that's why I'm saying don't take the you don't have an ego thing too seriously, because it's useful in business and modern society. Another thing that your ego is useful for is to not be a pushover. There's a lot of people in this world that have big egos that like to take advantage of you and your niceness, and when you want to be completely egoless and want to just help others and you stop caring about helping yourself, then people are going to push you around and you're not going to live a happy life according to your standards. It's going to be according to their standards. So sometimes you got to enforce that ego and say, hey man, I'm not going to do this for you right now. I got my own to take care of, and I want you to respect that, and that requires a little bit of your ego. This kind of relates to the last one, but self-care also requires you to use some of your ego. By taking care of this thing in which you encapsulate, the way I do this usually is by eating well and by working out. I'm gonna feel good, and maybe I won't be able to do everything for everyone because I gotta focus on myself more, but that will make my reality, my existence, better. And also, competition requires some of your ego. Like, being competitive with someone, it means your ego is coming out of you to want to be better than that person. And I think that's important with business, life, with trying to get better at things, having some friendly competition with people, or even not friendly competition with someone that you look up to that you want to be better than them at. You gotta use your ego to be competitive. So ego can make you grow and be better, not materialistically and materialistically. And you know, we all want a little bit of material items, unless you want to go off and live in the middle of the woods and just like be a monk or whatever. Like, you can do that, that's totally fine. But if you want to function in today's society, this is the stuff I do. Okay, I know I've said a lot about using your ego. Let's go over the things that you should drop your ego for. And there's actually more of these than things that you should use your ego for. You need to drop your ego when you fail or get rejected at something. If I had kept my ego for every single time that I got rejected, I would always blame the problem on that person. Like, it's clearly something they're doing wrong that they want to reject me, and not accepting the fact that I might be the problem. There's something that I'm doing wrong and that I need to get better at. And also, if I had a big ego in this way, I would let rejection get to me. I would let rejection keep me depressed, and I would stay stuck on it. When you drop your ego, when you get rejected or you fail at something and you realize that I'm not that good at this thing, and you accept that, you'll want to get better at it, and you can get better at it. You also need to lose your ego when you're trying to step out of your comfort zone, because the ego, this thing in which we encapsulate, wants to always keep you in your comfort zone. It's how we're wired. When you step out of your comfort zone, your ego says, danger, danger, this is not going to be good for you, and scares you off from doing something that will allow you to grow. And please stop trying to control everything, because this is a hugely negative function of your ego. Your ego needs everything to be within your control. This is why you get anxious when thinking about the future, or you wish you could change the things that happened in your past, because your ego loves to keep everything under your control. How people perceive you to some extent, the unexpected things that just happen in your life, knowing that nothing in the future is certain, let go of that. Learn to let go of that, and accepting whatever happens, happens, and what has happened will suppress your ego during times where it should be suppressed. This one is really tied to the last one as well, and just letting go. Forgiveness is something that your ego doesn't want to do either. When you can really learn to forgive someone no matter what they did to you or how dirty they did to you, you don't necessarily have to forget what they did or be friends with them, but if you forgive something negative that happened to you, you're going to release so much negative energy out of you, and it's a great way to dissolve the ego in the right time. And if you want to know more about like letting go and forgiving people, I talk about that a lot more in depth in my It's Time to Let Go video. And if you are a complete beginner or an expert at something, this is also when you need to tuck your ego away. Having a big ego when you're trying to learn something is the best way to stop you from actually getting new knowledge on that, because your brain is going to tell you, you know everything there is to know, or you can figure it all out by yourself, and you don't seek help. That's going to damage your growth within a certain thing. Just the other day, I was talking to a patron from my Patreon, and he was telling me about how inspiring my growth was, even though I'm not really on the level of Matt Davella or Nathaniel Drew yet in the self-help space. That's basically what he said. And I know that he meant well, but my ego felt felt this, and it was like my ego so badly wanted to say, what the hell are you talking about, man? But the quality of my videos are just as good. But I put that to the side. I'm like, I know I have room for improvement, and maybe I'm not as good as them. It just means that I have more to learn. You're much more willing to take advice from others and actually achieve improvement in your field when you leave your ego at your door. And I've been leaving my ego at my door quite a lot for learning new things using the sponsor of today's video, which is Skillshare. Skillshare is a big supporter of the channel, and it is my absolute favorite online learning community, whether you're a lifelong learner or just someone trying to be a better creative. Whether you're trying to develop new skills or deepen existing ones, I promise you that Skillshare has a class for you. They have classes on film and video, starting a YouTube channel, marketing, freelance and entrepreneurship, and any other creative endeavor that you can think of. One Skillshare class that is really helping me get to the level of those big self-help YouTubers is Video on a Budget, Prepare Your Shoot Without Breaking the Bank by Christopher Rhodes, aka YC Imaging on YouTube. And specifically in this class, how he chooses visual references before filming an actual shot so he can get a good feel and idea as to what he wants that shot to look like. And since it's curated specifically for learning, it means there are 0 ads on the platform, and they're always adding new Skillshare premium classes. You are never gonna run out of things to learn. If you're a creative person trying to learn pretty much anything, or you're just trying to improve your business and marketing skills, Skillshare has something for you. And they're offering a free trial to you guys. The first 1,000 people to click the link in my description will get a free trial of premium membership. Go check out Skillshare, best learning platform out there. And thank you to all the patrons on this channel on Patreon. Patreon is a platform where I'm putting out exclusive videos, blog posts, and podcasts that you can't find anywhere else. The link to that is also in the description, and that is going to be it for this video. Let me know what you think about this concept. Let me know if you agree with me, your opinions on this video, and thank you so much again for watching till the end. That helps me out tremendously. You guys have no idea. I love you. Goodbye. Have a good rest of your day or night.